Throughout the ministry of Christ, right from the beginning, Christ was constantly rejected by the Jews, ridiculed by his own people in Nazareth. Yet, at every interval, Christ was encouraged by the heathens and the Gentiles. The Roman centurion's faith was so great that Christ said that he couldn't find such great faith in the whole of Israel. Though the disciples had accepted Christ, they were still filled with doubts. However, the Samaritan woman at Jacob's well, after just one discourse with Christ, plunged on the side of Christ and became the first evangelist of the New Testament. Here again at Jacob's well, though Christ was physically famished, he was spiritually refreshed. At a later stage, when many disciples abandoned Christ, he was filled with immense pain. Yet it was right after that the Syrophoenician woman, a heathen, was even willing to be considered as a dog to receive healing from Christ for her demon-possessed daughter. And here again the Spirit of Christ was refreshed. At the cross, when even Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the disciples doubted Christ, a heathen Roman centurion at the cross accepted Christ as his personal Savior and knew that he was the Son of God. Throughout the ministry of Christ, the Jews stained his path with blood by rejecting him. But the heathens and the Gentiles refreshed the Spirit of Christ by willingly accepting him.
I will follow thee, my Savior, wheresoe'er my lot may be. Where thou goest, I will follow. Yes, my Lord, I'll follow thee. I will follow thee, my Savior. Thou didst shed thy blood for me. And though all men should forsake thee, by thy grace I'll follow thee. Though the road be rough and thorny, trackless as the foaming sea, thou hast trod this way before me, and I'll gladly follow thee. I will follow thee, my Savior. Thou didst shed thy blood for me. And though all men should forsake thee, by thy grace I'll follow thee.
After Christ finished his earthly ministry and ascended to heaven, and after the early churches were established by the apostles, Satan persecuted the early Christians. Blood flowed like river. Yet, more than the Jewish converts, it was the Gentiles and the heathens who were converted to Christianity were the ones who suffered the most, for they struggled and sacrificed their very lives to spread the Christian truth to all over the world. The remnant of God glorify God in their mouths, but the heathens and the Gentiles glorify God in their hearts.
Though I meet with tribulations, sorely tempted though I be, I remember thou wast tempted, and rejoice to follow thee. I will follow thee, my Savior. Thou didst shed thy blood for me. And though all men should forsake thee, by thy grace I'll follow thee. Though thou leadest me through affliction, poor forsaken though I be, thou wast destitute, afflicted, and I only follow thee. I will follow thee, my Savior. Thou didst shed thy blood for me, and though all men should forsake thee, by thy grace I'll follow thee. Though to Jordan's rolling billows, cold and deep, thou leadest me, thou hast crossed the waves before me, and I still will follow thee. I will follow thee, my Savior. Thou didst shed thy blood for me, and though all men should forsake thee, by thy grace I'll follow thee.